Hello and welcome. My name is Raya Tsvetkova,
And I'm Ali Honorami.
and we are from the Future Now Association.
Together, we'll be presenting this podcast, a part of the project Storytelling for Youth Work, funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union.
This is one part of a multi-part podcast in which we will talk to longtime storytellers, dungeon masters, and overall RPG players.
The two of us are also role-playing game fans and are lucky enough to have experienced a variety of them.
In these games, we've found inspiration, means of growth and development, and of course, a lot of fun.
We will discuss how storytelling can have a positive effect on your personal growth and how to turn it into a fun activity for your friends or family, or a way to find and build new relationships and friendships.
Stick through to see what made these individuals hooked on storytelling,
Take their time-earned advice.
and learn how you can develop your own story or be part of one. Enjoy!
Enjoy. Soraya wants me to introduce you more lamely. Okay, it's fine. You can start again,
I
Soraya.
did.
Or tell me. I did. Okay. So, today with us is Nick, or otherwise Nicholas Hadzis. He's a graduate of the English Literature Department in the Aristotle University of Helsinki. He's a veteran in popular and indie role-playing video games, and has been a storyteller for almost 12 years in various pen and paper games, with a special focus on Vampire the Masquerade and Dark Ages from White Wolf. So, after I've said some things about yourself, would you like to say some things about yourself, Nick?
Welcome, Nick.
Welcome.
Hey, it's great to see you, or hear you.
Hmm?
Well, yes, it's true. I've been role playing for most of my life. Um, it's been something that I've done for the past 12 years, more if you include some first attempts in junior high school. Uh,
Mm.
the first efforts, with your friends. Um, Yeah, I'm a big enthusiast of role-playing games, whether I'm storytelling, I'm playing uh, video games or pen and paper, uh, and I'm very happy to be here and talk about it. It's my
Well, thank you
possibly
for
favorite
being here.
subject.
Yeah, exactly. When we were thinking about this podcast, you instantly came to my mind. Having played with you and alongside with you as well. Well, actually, something I don't even know, even though being like a very good friend of yours, is what got you into role-playing games and storytelling.
That's a good question. I wonder myself sometimes.
Mm.
I mean, what is it that first captivates someone's attention and makes someone realize that they can guide or create a new story and then guide it. Um, for me, I mean, obviously, it started with books, literature. When I was at a really young age, my parents thankfully provided me with many different books, like classic literature for children. And that's, I guess, the first time where I saw that there are different worlds through books that you can enter and see through the vision and the perspective of other characters. And of course, that was great, but then I actually got to play a role playing video game for the first time when I was like 6 years old. Um,
Which one
and it
was
was
that, by the way? Sorry.
that was Baldur's Gate. That was Baldur's
Mm.
Gate, the first one. Um, it's to this day one of my favorite games, and I fell in love. It was unlike anything I had seen or I would see for many years until I realized what role-playing games are, and I started, actually understanding the English and playing. Um, it was amazing to me that there is a story taking place. You can control it, and there are different characters in there, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, obviously. Um, and that element of control, of influencing the story, is just the birth of the role playing game element in my mind, I think. um, and obviously, of course, if we're talking about uh, consciously then choosing to go the way of storytelling and playing role-playing games, at least as a player, let's say, it was also the video game Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines by Troika Games, which is it was also my introduction to the world of Vampire. An amazing game.
Slippery
Oh,
slide.
yeah.
What? You don't like it?
No, I said a slippery slide. You started with the video game, and then what happened?
Oh, a slippery slide. I heard he's lying, and I'm like, I don't think, I don't think I would have heard this from Raya. Yeah, indeed, the slippery slide.
Well, okay. Well, you answered also the other question. I was gonna ask which games and did inspire you, and you didn't mention Baldur's Gate, 1998, I think, and then Vampire, which then led you played the video game Bloodlines, and that introduced you to Vampire the Masquerade, pen and paper
Yes,
game.
yes, because that was the first game I played, the first pen and paper game that I ever played. It was Vampire the Masquerade. Actually, Vampire Dark Ages was the first session I ever had as a player.
Mm. All right, then. From since then, since you've been a player and since you started leading more role-playing games, the pen and paper ones, how do you think these RPGs have impacted your life? You can mention from any part of your life the change.
Oh, well, first of all, they are an immense amount of fun. Anyone who has sat down and played and is into that can testify that. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. You have fun. Obviously, alone if you're playing a role-playing game, or with your friends, ideally, that's the real entertainment to be found there. But it's also, since I've mentioned friends, it's helped me to meet new people, make friends, great friends, great people who I wouldn't have met otherwise. It's true that role-playing games, especially pen and paper games, have, let's say, a circle of people, a community that is very interesting to meet very often, to get to know. And there's this added, let's say, bonus of not having to be yourself all the time when you first meet some people. You get to play another character, be confident in that way, that you're not exposing yourself in the same way that you would go out and meet people for the first time. So it's perfect if you're a bit, more shy. I definitely consider myself as a more shy type of person. So it was amazing to through role playing meet new people, get to know them, through role playing, and then when they would actually become my friends, spend some quality time together. So believing that a few good friends are one of the major things to a good life, to living a good life, one of the best things about a good life. I do think that pen and paper games, role-playing games, have led me to meet some great friends or strengthen my friendship with some of my best friends, and this has just been a pure gift.
That's beautiful.
Very inspiring, really. That it's very cute also that you focus so much on this. That this has made also the biggest impact. It's very nice and wholesome actually, and something we don't get to hear that much. I think lately, I don't know. Maybe I'm in an echo chamber and hearing the same things, but nevertheless, there are not other people that would express this. And thank you for doing so. Very heartwarming and inspiring for those that struggle to find friends or maintain friendships. Yeah, so
I have a
Raya, I
related
think, has a
question.
leading up.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask something from what you said before. Has it happened that since you have the skill of like going into a character's shoes and taking on personality traits of people who are not you, have you used it in other situations? Maybe in like your work or for something else? Like, have you borrowed characteristics or qualities of characters that you've made, maybe?
You know, it's true that, well, first of all, I've had the amazing luck of being in the position to have storytell. And when you storytell a lot, you get to play many, many, many characters. Obviously, all of them are going to have common starting points, common elements. After all, you are one person masquerading or pretending to be many. But that also means that if you just pay attention, or if you play some characters long enough, you get to see or notice some of their traits that could have that just make you wonder. This is a trait that, for example, makes people respect someone. It seems, judging from the reactions of the players, this could be useful, or something like that. And then when you try to apply it in real life, with a healthy dose of realism and being down to earth about it, you find that suddenly you have some kind of experience, as if it was coming from a different dimension, let's say. You have some kind of experience in a certain type of behavior. It's like you've been there before. um, I'm not sure if I have an actual example, but um, I- if I was to say, for example, um, something about quick thinking on the spot, it's something that you practice when you play. Uh, of course, when you storytell as well. Um, and it's certainly given me, I mean, storytelling and playing pen and paper games, it's given me that practice in quick thinking that I found incredibly helpful in my workplace as well. Whenever I have to come up with something quickly, I give an excuse, or create an explanation that has to sound better than it actually is. Definitely, you can find there the seeds that have been planted from playing role-playing games.
An excuse that's a step up from my dog ate my homework. You
Yeah.
go.
Exactly. It's more of like, you won't believe what I spilled on my homework, which then led to my dog eating it. And then I had to save my dog's life. Therefore, my dog was in danger. I had to take care of my dog. And that's what you tell in the end, instead of losing your homework, because you realize that people are going to be more empathetic to pet
Just to
story.
just make it more general, so we don't give a bad example. People don't
Yeah.
use your wits for these nefarious
Oh,
purposes. No, but what
yeah.
Nick is trying to say is that yeah, and I understand what you're saying as well. That your wits actually increase having
Yeah,
to think on the
sorry.
spot.
It's too much
No, don't be.
vampire. It's dark. It's dark. Everything is dark.
No, but I do want to also ask you if role playing games did help you with your decision making skills. I know that from the common thing people say that when they play video games or a lot of role playing games, especially, they develop sometimes better decision making, problem solving skills, decision making, organizing. Do you agree on any of these statements? Have you seen them yourself on yourself?
Definitely. Definitely.
Oh,
Um, I mean, obviously planning, very important. I can see that, in both as a storyteller and in players, and when I was a player. It depends, of course, on what kind of player you want to be. I know that, uh, one type of person that really enjoys role-playing games is the min-maxer, or someone who does a lot of research on their character just to make sure that it will fall in place when they will actually need to use their talents. Um, Quick thinking, like I mentioned, adaptability, which is something that you struggle to find in people a lot of the time. Um, I think most people they have this sort of inertia, and they're stuck to their original thinking, their original opinions. But if you play enough pen and paper games with an open mind, you learn to be far more adaptable and understanding of how other people think. You literally put yourself into other people's shoes. So adaptability, I would say, definitely is one of those things that you get to have, or you get to earn from your experience in role playing. Like I said, if you have an open mind. And then obviously, me personally, I found it to be the perfect way to hone or even invest more in my creativity, in how many places I can reach with my mind, and constantly trying to push and expand that horizon. And obviously learning from your mistakes. Okay, that's more or less something that storytellers will mostly have to deal with, or people who lose their characters. uh, it's happened to everyone. I mean, learning from one's mistakes, that would apply to pen and paper games, role playing games as well. My personal greatest flaw, as you know, is time management. I'm still struggling with that. I will one day, I'm sure, find a way to become better at that through role playing as well. Working on it still.
It almost sounds like you're filling out your own character sheet with time, like increasing my wits, increasing these skills.
Of course, I'm spending XP. It's just
Yeah, exactly.
it's
So, oh
getting
wait, this
earned
is a nice
slowly.
thing now. Now, actually, as you mentioned, it's like role-playing game and storytelling games like offer you XP that you can use to build your own character. And
Yeah.
that's
I
cute.
mean, I guess that's what we do in real life as well.
Yeah, but it's
That
giving you more points. I
yeah. I
mean,
mean,
you could do something else than storytelling, but storytelling gives you this XP, or role-playing games give you this specific XP for everything that you mentioned.
yep.
In that line
True.
of thought, what do you think gives you more XP? Or what kind of XP? Playing or storytelling?
Uh, oh man. Okay, so both of course are great experiences. Quite different. Um, Obviously, it boils down to whatever, like I said before, you have more fun with. Um, there used to be times when I would much rather play than narrate or storytell. Um, but the thing is, eventually, sooner or later, and almost always it was sooner, I felt the urge again to say my own story, to craft my own world, to share my own creation.
Hmm.
So I think after all these years, that if you really want to storytell, um, you will find yourself doing that more, and you will have a greater experience with that. If you just want to enjoy a good story from someone you trust, and trust both in the literal sense, but also trust in the way that you would trust a screenwriter or our favorite director. You know they're gonna make a nice story for you. You want to live through that, just like it was another form of media, and that's gonna be a greater experience for you. So it depends on what you like more at the end of the day. For me, it's storytelling. I figured that out. Of course, I enjoy my breaks when I play, as you know, as a player, and I get to be the most annoying, of course, person in the group. But but storytelling, yeah, storytelling for me is the personally, at least because I enjoy it the most. It's the best experience, the most XP.
Alright, that's cute. That's wholesome.
Okay,
Um,
can I add a question then? Since you said that you are the
yeah.
most annoying player, what is the best player of RPGs like? Your ideal player in the story you're storytelling. What are some characteristics?
Oh, the characteristics of the ideal player. um, okay, well, there's one thing that's very important, um, but it also depends on how good I'm doing, and that's how engaged or how interested they are in what's happening. Um, if I'm doing my job well, of course, I'm going to see more of that. But I think generally, uh, I would like to have players who are interested in being there. Uh, you must be like, okay, that sounds like the most basic requirement ever. But you have to understand that uh, if you have a group of people who are all into doing that, having that same experience, going through it for an afternoon, detach themselves as far as they can, of course, from the world that we're in right now, and just take this little fantasy trip to another world. Um, that is the best best feeling, and obviously for everyone that you can have. Um, but other than that, the reason why I'm also mentioning something so basic is because I don't think that beyond that there is much else that I would really want in a specific player. What I found very interesting is to have different types of players as much as possible, because that's what essentially makes it more interesting. I would definitely not want to have the same type of player of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times in front of me. That would be boring.
Mm.
Having 4 or 5 people with different interests, different personalities, different types of play style on how they enjoy the game, that keeps it interesting. And it also always finds a way to make the story more interesting somehow.
Cool.
Mm.
Nice.
It's very nice. It sounds like you're giving advice to like future players on how they can better themselves. Because I don't see this as the question, how what is the ideal, but also how players themselves can become better. Uh, and following that, similar uh, train of thought,
Mhm.
what other advices would you give to storytellers? What for you, let's say, would be the ideal storyteller? Or in talking about players and having different personalities, as you said, or being different. What happens in the case when there's conflict, either in the game or just as players?
Oh, yeah. Um, I mean, it happens. It will happen. uh, and well, okay. If we just go for general advice, again beyond the basic, okay, have fun of everything. Um, I would say let yourself be uh, free to create that world you want. Dare to add things that maybe you think people are not gonna like. You're gonna see if they do. You're gonna know for next time. Maybe you like it so much that you will still find a better way to present it to players, and they will end up liking it. But if you don't try new things, if you don't experiment with your storytelling style, um, you will find yourself getting bored as a storyteller. Now, when it comes to conflict, it depends on how what type of conflict we're talking about. I've thankfully never had serious conflict. I've spent a lot of time reading horror RPG stories on Reddit, and they always give me a laugh. But obviously, it also makes me think how I would handle it. And personally, I would say if it ever comes to a point where it's uncomfortable or dangerous, you immediately stop, take a break, take a breather, and you talk it out, because in the end, it's real life that matters. It's not worth having anyone be disappointed, sad, or of course in danger, even worse. Of Obviously, I'm in danger. I mean, having panic attack or something. It happens. It can happen with, especially games like Vampire. Um, just take a time
Mm.
out. and it's going to be okay. For like, let's say, conflicts that are within the game, or rivalries, stuff like that. Well, if you can find a way to weave that into the story, um, it's going to just make it more interesting. Um, I would say try to weave it or include it into the story in a way, and reward what you think should be the outcome of this rivalry or its end,
Hmm.
and that's how you finish it in the best way. In the story, keep it there, um, make it a point of the story, and it's going to start and end there, and the players are going to be better for it. Um, Although, be careful if you have made that mistake. Just don't let, if it's between too many, two players, or the most of the group against each other. Try not to reward one side over the other, or have it derail your own story. Just, there's always a better way to handle it. Be creative, and it's gonna be fine.
Mm.
Nice.
Okay. That's very nice and inspiring. Nice pacifist approach as well, but one that promotes understanding and like to deal with the issue rather than just immediately call it off. And yeah, I agree, I like this approach and I agree with it because in the end it kind of also teaches you how like more interpersonal skills that there's conflict not just in the role playing game but everywhere else as well.
Mm.
And because if friendships can develop from this, it's good if we try to solve the issues by talking and understanding rather than just flailing out of the game or you know
Yeah,
other more misunfortunate ways.
yeah. It's worth it
That's
in the
really
end.
cool.
It's worth
Yeah.
it to overcome the conflicts, to build on friendships through that uh, pen
Hmm.
and paper experience. It's And in the end, it is an experience. It's like I mentioned books at the start. I do believe that it's a medium that is still quite underappreciated, um, and it should be taken into account. But then again, I also believe that viewer input into creativity, when it comes to the media, is going to be a big thing in the future.
Interactivity,
Mm.
Yes, yes.
like that episode of Black Mirror,
Black
Bandersnatch.
Mirror. Yep. I mean, it seems to me like it's a natural development of entertainment, um, that makes a lot of sense to me. Of
Mm.
course, there's a lot of things involved that could lead to something different, but why not, right? It's always fun to have a say in the story. I
Yeah.
would certainly could think of a few shows where I could, if I could, I would change the ending.
Mm. Talking about the future, any future endeavors? So from what I understand, you mostly focus on Vampire the Masquerade, Dark Ages, um, and as a storyteller. I'll say this is your general profile. Are there any? Have you decided to develop something on your own, or give it a try as a player in some other franchise? What is the future as you as a storyteller, or any personal development you have as a storyteller? Any last
uh,
remarks regarding the
yeah,
future?
actually, a couple of things. Well, first, um, I love writing. I've created my own worlds and settings. I've just not put everything together the way I want quite yet.
Hmm.
But as a storyteller, and about this, my favorite pastime of meeting with my friends and sharing stories like that. What I'm considering this specific period is a really in-depth look into the Dungeons and Dragons
Hmm.
mythos and game. I just can't make up my mind yet if I want to use the setting itself, or the rule set. that I could then maybe adapt to something more original of my own. But nonetheless, it's definitely the D20 world for my future escapades as a storyteller, and be really excited if obviously,
Really? So you
yeah.
leave the D10 system from Vampire to go for the D20
Yes,
after. Okay, that says a
after
lot because
so
I know
many
you have
years. Yeah.
exactly. I have a lot of experience. Okay. All right. So
Mhm.
one like small final question, just because you sparked my my curiosity. Why would you move from a D10 to a D20? What made you change that system for you?
Well, when you've played with the D10 system long enough,
Mm-hmm.
um, you start to realize that it has some limitations, um, mostly gameplay wise. The dice rolling, the number crunching. Um, but the D20 system is also, I think, much better for fantasy. And that's just 90% the reason why I'm switching there. That's not to say that you can't play the fantasy in a fantasy genre with or high fantasy with the D10 system. It's just that
Mm-hmm.
I think I've had enough of it.
Okay.
It's a lot of D10 rolling. Um, I would I will try, of course, the D20. I've tried it as a player. I want to try it as a storyteller as well. I think it has a bit of more um, it gives more space to a creator to just work with a few more mechanics. Uh, if I'm wrong, oh, this is just here to quote me.
No, but like you said earlier, being a storyteller is also about being adaptable and changing also so you can grow. So it makes sense that you're also looking for new avenues to develop yourself.
Exactly, exactly. I think change is awesome. I'm terrified of it, but every time I've I've actually overcome this and dared it, it was it was good in the end.
Yeah.
To say it in more of a gamer's term, perhaps, you gathered enough XP to level up and, as I said, have more avenues to try and experiment. Okay.
Exactly,
Good.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was what I had to ask. I think Raya too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
I would
yeah.
love to hear your answers to all of these questions as well. We need to do a reverse
Well,
podcast
stay
where I'm
tuned
asking you.
because that might be an episode as well.
Oh, great, great, great. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Then my OCD is going to be sated.
Nick, did we miss something? Are you itching to tell us something else about storytelling that we forgot to ask?
Yeah. Is there something more?
Ah, well, just I don't know if this is something that anyone who listens to this is not going to be aware of, but please, if you want to be inspired and storytell at any point in your life, just go to YouTube and search for Mercer, Matt Mercer. Just enjoy uh,
Did you get
everything.
paid for this?
Oh my! I
Okay.
mean, I wish, I wish I
I
had
see.
any sort of cooperation. But no, seriously, I mean this because we
Mm,
mentioned, of course, what inspired me about storytelling. I've always, obviously, it wasn't until very late in my life that, as a storyteller, that I discovered Matt Mercer. But now that I've seen how he storytells, it's an experience on its own. Don't try to copy, of course. It's not going to end well for most people. Always, my advice is to have your own style as a storyteller. But in my opinion, he's just the best storyteller that I've seen um, at work.
Nice.
mm.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for answering all of our questions with such inspiring and beautiful ideas and words.
Thank
Heartwarming.
you. thank you for inviting me, and I will be tuning in for your own answers. You promised now.
Well, also tune in for the rest of the speakers we have as well. Because I
Yeah.
think
Yes.
I don't know if you agree, but everyone gave a bit different approach to most of the questions and the games they've played.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we covered a more holistic approach.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's so awesome.
And one of our other guests is a D&D storyteller, so maybe you
Yeah,
can get some inspiration for the new endeavor.
There we go. Yes, I'd love to.
Great. Thank you,
great.
Nick.
I think we can end it here. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you guys. I hope you have many guests, and I listen to more of these interesting discussions with other people.
Mhm.